James Bond First Light might be the best Bond movie adaptation we've had in gaming since Golden... James Pond Underwater Agent and James Pond Robocod. Real ones know what I'm talking about. Give me a Robocod in the comments if you got a huge shock of nostalgia by seeing that, even if it is age shaming us. Back to reality though, First Light absolutely nails the characters, performance, set pieces and atmosphere that James Bond the movies have always delivered. But in trying so hard to feel like a Bond movie, it sometimes sacrifices the depth, freedom and replayability that can make a great video game. Just as a quick example before I go into the positives about First Light, but in James Bond, a large part of it is about surveying the landscape and listening to conversations. That works in a movie when it's for, let's say, 10 minutes of a scene or 30 minutes of the whole movie, but when it's about 5 or 6 hours of a video game, it definitely begins to flatten the experience. That's just one example, and I've got a lot of positives to say about First Light, so let's get into that first. First Light does a lot of things right. From Patrick Gibson's fantastic performance as James Bond.
Little too good at that.
At what?
Being a bit of a bellend.
Oh, what can I say? Just seems to come naturally.
To the witty dialogue and one-liners that would have had a place in any of its best movies.
Completely realigns the body's spiritual energy.
Sounds intense. I won't cry, will I?
Many do.
I think I'd rather repress.
The way the relationship changes with Greenway and Lenny James' performance, the villains, exotic locations, all of which just ooze a Bond charm and dastardliness that you can only get out of a Bond villain. Even the story is so relevant to the modern day situations going on in the world with governments so eager to sell their defensive contracts to AI companies. It really does do the Bond license proud. Add to that the fantastic set pieces and giving you that genuine Bond feeling of operating in elite social circles. These are all the things that make people love Bond films. Come on! What all of that leads to is a feeling of being bought into the world and more importantly bought into this James Bond more than I thought I would be. When I first saw the trailers, I really didn't think this was for me. But when those end credits roll and James Bond delivers an iconic final line, you can't help but hope that the developers come back for a sequel, improve on the slightly flatter bits of the game, and manage to deliver an action-packed, adrenaline-pumping sequel. Now in a minute I'm going to criticise some of the flatter parts of the James Bond First Light experience. But one of those parts I've seen get a bit of criticism, but I actually enjoyed, was the parts where there's a lot of dialogue between the two characters as say we're driving or walking down an alleyway or something. And I really enjoyed those. I think they really add to the mystique of the world, they add to the bond, if you pardon the pun, between the two characters, and they give life to the relationships in this world. So yeah, First Light does a brilliant job of using the source material and painting it beautifully on your TV screen to make you feel part of a real living Bond movie. Every level, street, building, art exhibition is bustling with life, conversation, and alternate routes to unlock. And an elite level voice acting performance by Patrick Gibson really pushes that immersion. And I haven't even begun to talk about the combat yet. There's one thing a video game lets you do when it comes to a James Bond franchise, is let you live out your fantasy of being a secret agent who can throw hands. And by God, can you throw some serious hands in First Light. The contextual combat is nothing short of brilliant, simple to get a grip of, and stunning to watch and look at. It never gets old, despite its relative simplicity. And the way you can chain combos and kills, from gunplay to fistfights, to using environmental objects, makes this a game that was made for viral compilations. I think the combat in some cases is too good, way overshadowing the stealth sections of the game, and more on the stealth in a minute. But where video gaming as a vehicle really amplifies the sense of combat, makes it feel so visceral and so punchy. Video gaming as a vehicle can also take away from the stealth elements of the game and the information gathering elements of the game. However, I can't leave the gameplay section without talking about the set pieces. Now sadly, the set pieces do kind of dwindle in number towards the back end of the game, but overall they are utterly fantastic. All of them are memorable, exhilarating, and blood pumping. I like the way they try and do something a little bit different with the boss fights as well. On the flip side, I do have to say they kind of peak a bit early with the set pieces. I feel like they ran out of steam towards the back end. If they do a sequel, I hope they realise the strengths of what they made here and ramp it up to 10. I want to see more set pieces like the fantastic aeroplane set piece early on in the game, or the airport scene, and there are many others that I won't spoil for you. But there's also the little touches, like the way Bond kicks up a gun to add it to his arsenal and then shoot it, the way they don't let you just carry one gun throughout the whole game. You've got to use what's on the floor and use what enemies leave behind for you. And yes, like any good action movie, it can be a little unbelievable when 10 enemies just wait around to attack you one by one, but we all know how that goes by now. But yeah, there is a lot to love here in James Bond First Light. I had a great time playing it, but like I said, what makes it so great is also its Achilles heel. So though being part of the James Bond franchise may provide a lot of advantages in terms of how a player perceives what they're seeing on the screen due to the natural connection to James Bond himself, sadly being a James Bond franchise also has negatives. The stealth, puzzle box design of the levels and the investigation sections just don't seem to lend themselves to a video game for large parts. In small sections, yeah, it would work, for example in a 10-minute movie or 20-minute movie like I said in the intro, but to use the puzzle stealth box as I like to call it, or the investigative sections to pad out let's say 5 or 6 hours of the gameplay, it just seems a bit much, and honestly it really does flatten the experience and give it some troughs that it could have done without. Bond movie can spend a few scenes gathering clues, a few scenes sneaking through a office building for example, but the game asks the player to actively participate in these processes for hours. To add to this, the puzzle box design of the levels really lacks variety. I would have loved to have seen more puzzle variation, more environmental problem solving, many more gadgets, and the ability to use many more gadgets, because for most of the game you can only have 3, and the amount of options available to you in the environment are minimal and repeated often. So the solutions are always the same. Laser this, throw a smoke bomb there, turn a TV on or Hoover on to distract someone. Boy, I turned on a lot of Hoovers in this game. And really, it's just a bit too simple. And that's really what I mean by the game's biggest strength also being one of its biggest weaknesses, because it is being loyal to the James Bond franchise to a fault. It's a little bit goofy when you can kind of laser somebody in the eye right in front of them with other people standing by, jump over a desk, pickpocket them and jump back over the desk. You know, it's not really James Bond stuff, but it is what it is. This is something that I think they can really improve on, and maybe if they can't add too much variety to it, maybe have a few less sections and just more combat. It sounds so simplistic to do that, but I do think that's the best solution here. In a movie, you only need Bond to solve a problem that's shown to the viewer once. In a video game, you've got to solve problems time and time again. And sadly, there just isn't the variety in those problems that are shown to the player that make it fun or that keeps the player's attention. And on top of that, the gadgets feel quite underdeveloped and lacking any progression. With there being such a limited use of gadgets, and to be honest, a lack of gadgets that you can use at any one time, it really hinders the ability of the player to use gadgets in cool situations, to use gadgets in evolving mechanics. And it really is a missed opportunity. A really good example, in my opinion, for what could have been in James Bond's stealth and gadget economy would be one of the final levels when you're in the Q lab. And I don't want to spoil too much here, but you're in the Q lab, and let's just say there's more options available to you. Something like that across the whole game, with the progression system, with allowing you to add cool little bits of functionality to each of the gadgets, even if it's a bit wacky and overpowered, I just think it would have added so much. And failing that, I genuinely feel shortening the game length to a Resident Evil style game length and adding a lot of replayability to it would have been the next way to go. And I actually think it would have been a better game for it. Almost running in contradiction to this as well is just how quick the game is to tell you what to do. Like, you're giving me an investigative scenario, then within about 10 seconds it places a waypoint where I need to go. I just didn't get that aspect of the design. I think they could have really toned back that a little bit, giving you a few more clues to make it a little bit more interesting, not being too opaque, and there is a fine kind of line to tread with these type of things, but again, that would have been something I'd like to see them do, and I definitely would like to see that in the sequel. But funnily enough, what these flaws in James Bond First Light reveal is they reveal an incredible sequel on the horizon, and I really hope they come back for it, because I am bought into this James Bond. I am bought into the world and the kind of mystery they've built here with the breadcrumbs, I'm all down for it, and I would love to see them come back to take a second. Other huge positives, just to add to the previous positives, performance is absolutely excellent. I tested this game. I played this game on both a 5090 and a 4070, and I could not believe how well it ran on a 4070. Okay, I was playing at 2K, but damn, it looks good, and it ran silky smooth. The game generally is beautiful. It's not like a tech demo or anything, but it looks good, and when it needs to, it really can push itself a little bit further. I do think they prioritize performance over visual spectacle for the most part, and I'm totally okay with that. The voice acting across the board is straight up Hollywood level, absolutely fantastic. Almost every character, I don't think one character is poorly voice acted. They're all excellent. And even though it's not in the game for long, I did love the Lana Del Rey song, which I think was made specifically for the game. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and she's an excellent singer-songwriter in her own right. But yeah, look, overall, I absolutely loved First Light. But even if you love a game, I think a reviewer's job is to point out the flaws, even if I do love a game. That doesn't mean I'm taking away from how great the game is, but it's about having honest discussions about video games and hoping they can fix the things for sequels. And enjoyed it so much, I really want there to be a sequel, so fingers crossed. But my final thoughts on James Bond First Light are that it's a brilliant vision of what James Bond can be in the video games format. It pays homage to the very essence of James Bond, to a fault at times, and if they can iron out the investigative issues and the puzzle box variety of the levels, I think they have everything else in place to make a very successful franchise for years to come. Let me know what you thought of James Bond, from the combat to the investigative scenes to the way gadgets were used to solve the puzzle box environment design, and if you'd pick up a sequel of James Bond if they announced one. Were you sold on this James Bond? What were the high points and what were the low points? But more importantly than all of that, is it better than James Pond Robocop? Cheers guys, take care and look after yourselves.